Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Project. I know I haven't made a podcast in a while, but been a little busy. Plus, I had some negative feelings about making more podcasts. I'm going to give it another shot. But, when you think about it, so many people on the entire planet are so not even interested in this subject matter. Matter of fact, most people in the world, when it comes to trying to understand reality, the nature of existence, the meaning of life, they have belief systems, they have latched on to whatever premises that they are currently connected to. And, that term, like you're trying to red pill people, which is an odd term, by the way. On a little side note, I just wanted to mention something. In the Matrix, the red and blue pill, the red pill is the one that wakes you up. But really in the spectrum of light, red is on the low end. Or wouldn't a real wake-up pill be like violet or purple or something? Anyway, that's besides the point. It's just that when it comes to humanity, it does really seem like we exist in a world that is completely, almost completely insane. And there's a few pockets of people out there genuinely seeking truth, not trying to call themselves truthers, but really what they're doing is defending their beliefs. It's a very, very small number. It's the people that leave comments for me. The majority of those people seem to get it. You out there that are listening to me now. But most people do not really understand, or they don't even want to understand. On my webpage, on my website, OverwatchProject.com, I've updated it a little bit. There's a few new videos on the homepage for you to look at if you're new. Go to OverwatchProject.com, and that's, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the information is there. But on the bottom of my homepage, I have a quote from the book Active Side of Infinity by Carlos Castaneda, where he attributes this quote to the supposed shaman that he got his information from. Some people say he was real. Some people say he may have been a conglomeration of different people that he learned from. Wherever it came from, it makes perfect sense. In there, Don Juan, the shaman that Carlos Castaneda learned from in the book Active Side of Infinity, is quoted as saying that we have a predator that came from the depths of the cosmos and took over the rule of our lives. Human beings are its prisoner. The predator is our Lord and Master. It has rendered us docile, helpless. If we want to protest, it suppresses our protest. If we want to act independently, it demands that we don't do so. I have been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that something is holding us prisoner. Indeed, we are held prisoner. This was an energetic fact for the sorcerers of ancient Mexico. They took us over because we are food for them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their subsistence. Just as we rear chickens in chicken coops, the predators rear us in human coops, human arrows. Therefore, their food is always available to them. No, Carlos replies. This is absurd, Don Juan. What you are saying is something monstrous. It can't be true for sorcerers or for the average man or for anyone. And why not, Don Juan asked calmly. Why not? Just because it infuriates you? You haven't heard all the claims yet. I want to appeal to your analytical mind. Think for a moment and tell me how you would explain the contradictions between the intelligence of man the engineer and the stupidity of his systems of belief, or the stupidity of his contradictory behavior. Now, there's a lot more to that quote, but that right there is something that I have been puzzled about for years and years, ever since I started to unravel this understanding of my little understanding of this matrix that we experience and call life in the physical form. And that is that there is no real justifiable or understandable explanation for the repeated cycles of insane behavior by humans whenever we put our minds, and I don't mean everyone, because there are clearly anarcho-capitalists out there, there are people out there that are not statists, that understand that statism and government is a just plain form of slavery, and that is how we are acted upon as if a parasite was feeding off of us in the material world, and as above so below. I think the Archons or whatever they are feed on us from their realm, and maybe are controlling the governments here to some extent or influencing them. But really the insanity of the population as a whole, billions and billions of people now on the planet, but billions and billions of lives over the last 7,000 years of recorded history that we know of, and maybe long before that, where humans recycle this notion of statism, which is purely parasitic. If you guys have time and check out, if you don't know what I'm talking about by that, look at Mark Passio's work. Look at the work of Larkin Rose. His entire book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, is actually somebody read it aloud. It's available on audio on YouTube if you search for it. Look at Michael Huemer, the professor from Colorado. He wrote that book. I'm reading it now, The Problem of Political Authority, to figure out why is it that when the minds of humans apply themselves in general, in the aggregate, they apply themselves to figuring out a system for society, that we recycle these failed ideas, these tyrannical ideas over and over and over again. Well, we don't do this anywhere else. Think about man the engineer, like Don Juan says in Active Side of Infinity. Think about the complexity of a jumbo jet or a skyscraper, and how much better we keep making things, technology, computers, cars, safer, better, faster. These feats of engineering, whether it's the black and white TV that is now the 8K, ultra 8K TV that's coming out soon, because human beings are quite capable of understanding cause and effect. We understand and can learn from mistakes so that we make things better, safer, faster, more efficient, cleaner. But some kind of insanity comes over humans in general when it comes to politics, for lack of a better word, and when it comes to matters of understanding reality. Most scientists are into basically scientism, where they are fixated on matter, even though quantum physics has proven that to be obsolete almost 100 years ago. They are fixated on it, and they need it to be so. So they cling to beliefs while they call themselves scientists. While you have religious people out there with all kinds of crazy, when you really break this stuff down like I have, the crazy, insane things that religious people believe, dogmas, doctrines, that, you know what I do here on OverwatchProject, I try to examine the totality of information. I try to let the truth speak for itself. I try not to believe in things. I just come to deductions based on a totality of information that I have available to me. And when you do that, you take a look at some of the insane things that religious people believe. And then you have, of course, their counterparts, which are atheists. And, frankly, they have a problem really identifying what the hell they are. Most of the time, if you take a look at an atheist trying to explain what their atheism is, your head will be spinning by the time they're done talking, and you will not be sure exactly what the hell they believe or don't believe in. But basically, from how they argue, from the positions they take, whether they want to admit it or not, they're basically fundamental reductive materialists. Nothing exists besides matter, blah, blah, blah. Forget all the times that has been proven false. And I'm probably triggering some comments now from some of these people who haven't done the research or have closed off the research. And believe me, everything that all the source material you need is basically on my website, OverwatchProject.com. So you can go there and do your own research. And I'm not asking anybody to believe me, because I don't have beliefs per se. I have, let's face it, I have a career that I used to work in where I would apply these same investigative techniques to solving crimes, to solving mysteries, and I was very effective at it. And I apply the same stuff. The only difference is here with the supernatural, with the paranormal, with the spiritual side of things. I won't know if I'm right or wrong about things until after my body passes away and my spirit consciousness moves on, and then I'll be free of this place, I hope, because knowledge, I think, will set you free. But the insanity of people in general is quite depressing in a way, or disheartening. I'm not really a person who gets overly emotional. It's one of the reasons I'm able to do this coldly without getting upset. My worldview crumbled. I remember, if you guys pay attention to my podcast, I was raised Roman Catholic from kindergarten all the way through the end of high school. I went to a Catholic school. I was heavily brainwashed, indoctrinated into Christianity. But I always had this thing, even as a young child, to, I don't know. There was something, an inner voice, an inner thought form that was coming from me that was saying that this stuff is all wrong. This is all wrong. And it wasn't until after I had, enough free time to really start digging into this stuff super deep. But all my life, I remember questioning things in religion class when I was 8 years old. Things that just didn't ring true to me or sound correct. But so you have most people. I mean, everybody's going to have a different perspective. Their perspective and their life experience are going to give them a different understanding of what I'm saying. The few people, and when you really take it in totality with all of human population, there are very, very few people on the planet that even get the sort of Gnostic philosophies or the philosophies based on knowledge to try to truly understand reality for what it really is. And to me, in case you haven't figured it out yet, or you haven't watched any of my previous videos and podcasts, or listened to my work, basically this is a reality is like a hallucination, as a hologram. And we're sort of recycled here through reincarnation. And because we've agreed to come here in the first place, it gives us amnesia. And that amnesia causes us to not remember anything. And you get all this bullshit information, whether it's from New Age, religion, or atheism, or scientism. I mean, your head is filled with garbage from the moment you're born. And if you don't have any desire to question it, or if you're happy to be a useful idiot to the Matrix, then that's what you'll be, If you do have a desire to question it, you'll end up, and you honestly look for the truth, you'll end up having to accept that you really can't know much. But what you can know is that just about everybody else on the whole planet is insane in the things they believe about reality. Think about it. Billions of people, billions in one form or another, are Christians. Then you have 1.5 billion or more Muslims. You have all of these religions, of course, branch off from Judaism and from the Abrahamic religions, and that makes up the bulk of the world. And then you have these other religions which we don't really have the original text from. I mean, Buddhism, for example, it has some very interesting stuff in there, but when you really research it, you understand that from the originator to the earliest text, I mean, you're talking about like a 500-year gap, and tell me that some of that stuff wasn't corrupted. Okay? And you can go down the line to every kind of belief system out there. And if it's a belief system, then it's not interested in the truth. It's interested in supporting its beliefs. And I'm not here saying I know everything, because I don't. But, I know this is kind of rambling, but what I'm trying to say is I'm just basically talking to the choir, to the people that already know, or maybe the few, very, very few people that have begun questioning what they've been taught and have finally freed themselves from the slavery of ignorance, which is a choice. I mean, we're nascent in a lot of things where we can't know, but ignorance is a choice. And a lot of people choose to be ignorant and choose to stay ignorant. I mean, have you ever talked to somebody about some big issue and they basically stop you because they want to blow you off because it's too disturbing to them to listen to? They don't want to deal with it. As if that isn't the most important thing to deal with, is to understand why we are even here. Because, after all, I hate to break it to you. I hate to break it to these people, but we're all going to die. Right? Time here is exceptionally short. Now let me just give you a little rundown of my current understanding of things, which is open to change if new information comes my way. But human beings are a hodgepodge DNA designed, engineered, probably by some ancient, you can call them aliens, you can call them deities, whatever they were, I don't know. The Sumerian text, I think, is the best hint as to what was done to us, which was basically, we were created as basically almost like a slave race. Maybe it was just to produce loosh, maybe it was just to house souls in a reincarnation cycle so that we could emanate energy so that these beings didn't have to work so hard. I don't know. But whatever it is, they did a shitty job designing us. I mean, you can really think about the human form, and we are really poorly designed. We have all kinds of problems, both mental and physical, cognitive issues that work against you when you're trying to learn truthful things about things. I mean, look at the recycling of... I mean, you could start at the bottom, the libtards, the socialist commies, the whatever you want to call them, the collectivist thinkers, the people that recycle the hardest form of tyranny, and then you can go to the conservatards, the Republicans in America, whatever, and they are just basically a dialectic. Both of these sides want you to choose one or the other, and I choose none of the above because this is all like a game, a program that we're following, if you understand what I'm saying. But and no one truly for whatever reason understands a simple concept of natural law, the non-aggression principle, what true freedom is. They don't even know what an actual right is. All these things come from nature, but our human form has separated us from this somehow. And, Christians believe that we gain the knowledge of good and evil. Well, that's complete bullshit, because people sometimes don't even know what the hell evil is, and they do things that result in evil, and they then scratch their heads and wonder what the hell happened, right? When we create, hellholes like North Korea, Venezuela, or wherever else, we've tried these human experiments that constantly fail. This isn't about politics, by the way. This is about cause and effect. If you do things a certain way, a society of people end up in a certain type of garbage to live in. If you do things another way, they get a little bit better. But no one has ever tried to truly free the human being as a sovereign individual so that we can all interact with each other without having this false authority. It's almost like humanity's like one giant cargo cult. These deities, whatever they were, or aliens, whatever they were, whatever the Sumerian texts are trying to tell us, and all the other mythologies that came long before the Bible text, the Sumerian texts are preserved because they wrote in clay and not paper. And we have that's some of the oldest records that are actually still around. I don't know where these beings went, but it's almost like they designed humans to be under an authority. Maybe they genetically tweaked us for that, and that's why we keep acting insane. But the authority isn't here, so we've created our own, a fictitious authority called the state. And the state has replaced this whatever authority may have been here before. These things are gone. I don't know what happened to them. Did they just abandon us? Did they ascend to a spiritual realm and they no longer need to interact with us directly? I have no idea, but I do know that humanity acts like a giant cargo cult. The things that we do, some of it is just absolutely insane. Some of the things that people get put in cages for, their freedoms get removed for arbitrary rules and regulations, laws, that if you're standing in one place on the earth, you're allowed to do it, and if you're standing somewhere else, suddenly you can go to jail for the same exact thing. None of these things make any sense. It's truly insane. Absolutely insane. So, and you know what else? Let me just talk about something else for a moment. Dieting. Diet has been something that I've been thinking about for a while. What should one be eating if one is of a philosophy like mine? Does diet even matter? I was listening to Mark Passio. He's been doing regular podcasts lately, and he did a couple of podcasts about diet and the ethics, and basically he's gone full-blown vegan or vegetarian, but not like a vegan like these radical leftist tyrannical vegans. He just has made an ethical choice, and in his particular body it seems to be working for him, and I understand where he's coming from. Then you have a feminist libtard writer, Laurie Keith, I think her name is. She wrote a book, The Vegetarian Myth. I'm going to read it, but I've listened to several hours of her interviews, and I know where she's coming from. So here's a woman that was a vegan for 20 years. From the time she was 16 onward for 20 years. Apparently has devastated her body. Has given her medical problems that she will now have forever. And once she got off the vegan diet, many of her health problems went away. So what are we supposed to do with this information? On one hand, she and Mark Passio are in agreement with certain things. These so-called, what they call factory farms. I mean, the brutal, savage treatment of animals in these things, or the killing of pigs, for example, which are very intelligent animals, is quite disgusting to me. I don't want to eat any of that food. On the other hand, we are a hodgepodge, screwed up, a faulty DNA design being. We have a lot of problems. And on top of that, cosmic abandonment, apparently, and we've developed into a giant cargo cult worshiping the state in whatever form it comes in. But the diet thing, I understand where Mark's coming from, but to be honest with you, I've tried different diets. I don't want to eat any kind of animal that has been treated in some of the way that we treat these animals. But there is that hunter-gatherer thing, right? And to tell you the truth, the one time that I achieved the most health results in a diet, weight loss without effort, no hunger, more alertness, a very great amount of calmness, almost like my stress hormones were under control, was the one time I really committed to a paleo diet. And of course, you try to eat the healthiest kind of meats and vegetables and lay off everything else. It's basically what it is. It's whatever a hunter-gatherer would eat. So you're not going to be eating any kind of processed meats. You're not going to eat any kind of meats that were from a factory farm. You're going to try to actually get free-range stuff that's real free-range, not the bullshit free-range that some of these companies try to peddle you. And, I live in an area in the South in Florida, and we actually have free-range cattle everywhere. Everywhere I go, they're roaming around open fields, living out there, sleeping out there, doing what cows do in nature without confinement of any kind. So that's a good thing, but I don't know if everyone could do a vegan diet. Clearly, Laurie Keith, that's her name. I don't want to screw up her name. Let me look that up just to make sure I'm not butchering her name. But she, her book, The Vegetarian Myth. Hold on a second, folks. I'm doing this tonight. I'm going to upload this podcast because every time I try to record something, I overanalyze everything I'm saying, and I'm just doing effort tonight. I'm recording whatever I record. I'm uploading it, and I may start doing some live podcasts. And it looks like on my Spreaker app here, there's a chat function. So I'll let you know if I'll post something if I'm going to do that. Let me see, Vegetarian Myth. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, Laurie Keith. I think I'm pronouncing that name right. Now, clearly, the vegan diet, assuming that after 20 years, this woman actually knew what she was doing, and believe me, she's not into she's quite a leftist from what I'm picking up from her interviews, and that's another thing that's still shocking to me. When I was doing my research, and the first major premise of reality, my religious brainwashing fell apart, I started looking at, okay, wow, if I had that wrong, I wonder what other things I think are correct and I aren't. And I discovered there was a whole bunch of stuff in my life I was latching on to premises that were just indoctrinated into me, and I went through a process similar to what I heard David Icke describe in his new Renegade documentary, where he talks about this 3 or 4 month period he went through where you kind of go a little nuts. You don't know what to think. It's not about belief anymore, but you don't even know what to think. Wow, if I was wrong about all that, what else am I wrong about? And you kind of go through this self-discovery mode where you kind of realign yourself psychologically, So, I mean, during that time period, I could tell you, I was looking at everything. I was like, is the universe inverted? Is there even space? Yeah, I was thinking about all kinds of crazy stuff, which I think there is space, and I think the universe is a hologram, you see. So it can be as big as it's programmed to be. So it can be actually infinite, because it's like information. But that's another topic for another time. The point is that we are designed and poorly designed, and we're very different. Our DNA coding can make, say, a person have an extra receptor in their eye for color. It's rare, but it can happen. So if you have 4 instead of 3, you see a whole bunch of colors that I can't see. So people have anomalies, and they also... Nobody, as far as I know, nobody can really do the same diet. So why was it that paleo, when I did it for almost a year, never felt as healthy as I did then, but it's so difficult. Discipline, which I lost. I have to maybe go back to it, but I'm looking at all these other diets. I understand where Mark Passio is coming from. And then I'm looking at this Laurie Keith woman whose body was devastated by veganism, and it's probably a DNA thing. But she, in her interviews, I'm understanding that what has happened was it took her almost dying, basically, for her to shake off her veganism. But when you listen to the stuff that she still believes in, like this peak oil nonsense and other eco-wacko green tard shit that people still hook on, this whole hoax, which is basically socialism, communism disguised as an environmental movement, she still believes in all that shit too. So it's like, I don't get it. If something that you were believing with for 20 years, you realize that you were wrong, aren't you going to want to analyze everything else so that you can figure out what the hell else that you fooled yourself about? But no, apparently not. Most people don't do that. They may eventually, like a rock, be moved off of one spot, but they just stop in another. I don't understand it myself, but everybody's different, right? So the diet thing, yeah. What is morally, ethically good to eat? What causes the least amount of suffering? Because, in that Carlo Castaneda, quote that I read to you goes on, and later on, I'll just paraphrase, that Carlos Castaneda was asking Don Juan, how is it possible that we could be, basically imprisoned like this? And let me see if I can find it. But how can they do this, Don Juan? Carlos asked. Someone asked, somehow angered further by what Don Juan was saying, do they whisper all this in our ears while we are asleep? No, they don't do it that way. That's idiotic, Don Juan said, smiling. They are infinitely more efficient and organized than that. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engaged themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist. A horrendous maneuver from the point of view of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Do you hear me? The predators gave us their mind, which becomes our mind. In other words, what Don Juan is saying here is that we have been given the mind of a parasite, and our human brain is processing reality for us and filtering things that way, and that handicaps us. It makes us screwed up even more than, you can imagine, that you're even aware of. I think that's where our ego issues come from, and, there's so many other things I can go into here, but I'm going to give it a rest. It's almost 35 minutes, and I'm going to upload this and see what the comments are, see what some of your thoughts are. But really, it is disheartening. Most people will never have their minds changed. Most people don't want to know what reality is all about. And most people don't even give a crap if they die and recycle back here through reincarnation or end up in some false heaven or false hell. They don't give a shit. So, that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Check out my website, OverwatchProject.com. That's the base of operations for everything. And if you're listening to this on BitChute or YouTube, feel free to comment. And I'm uploading this on Spreaker. It should mirror everywhere else shortly. Talk to you guys later. Bye.